Hi, this is Marlene, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Whether you're watching a video or listening to a podcast, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. Links to videos or MP3 files can be found on miamighostchronicles.com. Go to marlenepardo.com for information on new book releases. I narrate several podcast series that can be found on major podcast platforms and can also be listened to via Alexa, Sonos, and other home systems. Look for Supernatural Storytime for scary storytelling, Nightshade Diary for classic horror and adventure stories, Stories of the Supernatural for interviews with different guests on the show. If you want to get noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird, you can visit Strange Than Fiction Stories tab at miamighostchronicles.com or find us on Blogspot. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi, everybody. This is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural. How's everybody doing? Good, I hope. Everything is good here. And I'm going to admit, the guest that I'm going to bring on, he's been here on the show a couple of times, and man, we were talking and talking and talking. I said, wait a minute, we got to stop because I got to leave something for the show because this is such an interesting guest. And this gentleman, his name is Santariga. He is one of the founders of the Bronxville Paranormal Society, and he is. He's been involved in all areas of the paranormal. He had his first UFO sighting in the summer of '72 when he was 10 years old in Yonkers, New York. He had his Bigfoot sighting in the summer of '74 at the age of 12 when visiting his sister in Davie, Florida, which one of our prior interviews details that, which was fascinating. And he had his first Insectoid sighting in the fall of 1990 while working off the aqueduct in North Yonkers. He's had a lot of paranormal experiences, demonic, psychic, and even a possible abduction. And he's got other stuff that's happening, which we're going to talk about. So how are you doing, Al?
Great, Marlene. How are you?
Fantastic. And I'm going to get right to it because you yourself were mentioning a minute ago that you have a lot of interesting things going on, but specifically there were a couple of cases that you're working on right now.
Yeah, but before we get started, I want to say that Kat Ward and Miss Ada both say hello. I was talking to them today, and they both wanted me to say hello to you.
Yes,
So
I think that's great.
we got a bunch of stuff going on. I mean, I worked the case Sunday. First, I had what people in the psychic community call an awakening. It's
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to get into it now, but
Sure. Yes.
Okay. It was one night, and this is how it started. And I'm in bed sleeping, and I'm dreaming, and I feel like I'm on a rainbow bridge going up to the heavens, and I'm okay, and I feel like something. It's got my hand, and it's guiding me, but it's behind me. I can't see what's guiding me. And we're going up into the outer space on this rainbow bridge, and this voice is telling me, I'm going to tell you tonight, I'm going to tell you the secret of life and the secret of the universe. They are both the same thing. So I said, okay, I'm all ears, right? And I'm being brought up to heaven on it, and I'm seeing images of like music notes going by me, and I'm seeing mathematical calculations going by me, and I don't know what the hell either one of them mean. And then I'm seeing images of like Einstein and Tesla and Da Vinci and Nostradamus and Bach and Beethoven and all this. I'm seeing all of this stuff, and we're just going. And this voice starts telling me the secret to life. There's three things, they said, to the secret of life, and three things to the secret of the universe, which are both the same. It's frequency and vibration are one and two. And then there's a third one, And I was like, okay. And as I'm seeing all this stuff go by, and it's like who's ever guiding me doesn't want to tell me what the third one is. I was like pulling teeth, right? And I'm
Right.
like, okay, now we start to descend back down towards Earth. And we're going back down. And I'm like, hey, listen, are you going to tell me this last thing or what? Because we're almost back to
Yeah,
back
it's
in the
like,
house. I want to know before I wake up. I hit the bed and wake up, right? Never know. And it says the third thing is consciousness, vibration, frequency, and consciousness. That's the secret of life, and that's the secret of the universe. And all the knowledge that ever was is in the new universe, and you can tap into it at any time you want. This is telling me, okay. So as I'm going back home, I'm saying, boy, I say to this invisible person guiding me, I say, man, this was a wild dream, it's a crazy dream.
yeah.
And he says, no, this is not a dream. When the snow melts, you're going to see a sign in your yard to prove that this wasn't a dream. Meanwhile, I had like a foot and a half of snow in the backyard.
Okay.
This was like in January, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after a couple of weeks, I wake up. I wake up the next day, and I call my partner. And I say, "Dude, I had the weirdest dream." I call my partner Brian, and I tell him, and he goes, "Dude, I don't think that was a dream." And I was like, I mean, I don't know. And snow melts, and when the snow melts in my backyard, I have 2 yards: a close backyard and then a far backyard.
Right.
On the other side of the far yard is a ring of quartz crystal stones the size of bowling balls set
What?
up in my yard. And that was the proof that that journey I went on wasn't a dream. So I called a few people who are big into this metaphysical world, that's which I'm not really, into. I don't know much about. And I
Mm-hmm.
say, and I tell them about this, and they say, you had an awakening. It's called an awakening, and you've reached a higher consciousness.
Okay.
And they're telling me, you're no longer an intuitive. Now you're a psychic. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm a psychic, right? And I like, and they say that ring is your meditation ring, and you
Okay.
have to go into that ring and you have to meditate whenever you have whenever you're have something you're questioning, whether whatever it is that you're questioning, go. That's a meditation ring. So, okay, no problem. So now this happens, and Sunday, I get invited to a restaurant investigation, okay, from
Okay.
another group of mine, friends of mine. They say, hey, Ali, call me up at the last minute and say, hey, we want you to come. There's an opening. Do you want to come? And I'm like, sure. I'm not doing anything. So I head out there. Now, I always protect before I go out. I
Mm-hmm.
sage. I have a Benedictine cross that's been blessed by the church. I have stones. I have salt to keep me grounded. I have
Yes.
everything. I got holy water. I go above and beyond. I go to this restaurant, which is in a 200-year-old building, and I meet all the people from all the players from the different groups, different teams. Like, we're very tight up here. We have like a paranormal unity kind of thing going on between like
Okay.
5 or 6 different groups. And I say hello to everybody. We get some pictures going. We have a couple of beers, and then we start one of the sessions downstairs in the lower restaurant by the bar. And there's supposed to be like somebody who smokes cigars there and all this stuff, and I'm smelling cherry pipe tobacco the whole time I'm there. And
Okay.
all of a sudden, I don't I don't feel good. I'm I'm not me. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the people who were running it that day said, "Listen, Al, could you and William do me a favor and run the investigation down here? I'm going to take someone else upstairs and run the investigation upstairs." Okay. Well, before that happens, before we break up, the psychic comes in that we know. She's going to do like a little something there, right? She walks in and
Right.
she goes to me, "Oh my God!" She walks over to me, and I'm very good friends with her and her husband. And she walks over to me. She goes, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I go, "I shaved my head." And she goes,
Okay.
"No, I'm not talking about you shaving your head." She goes, "Al, your aura is like lit up like daytime, and you got like a beam of light coming out of your head. What happened?" So she goes, "You got to tell me. So she grabs me. We go to a private room, and I tell her about the awakening. And she goes, "Oh
Right.
my gosh." She goes, "Oh my God. She goes, I can't believe you had this experience. Yada yada yada." She goes, now you know where how I'm living. You know how my life is. Okay. Now we break off to go into the investigation. 10 minutes into the investigation, I can't figure out how to run any of my equipment. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I,
Okay.
I've had this equipment for years. I know how to run my equipment. You know what I mean? But for
Okay.
some reason, something has attached itself to me, and I can't work anything. I can't figure out how to take a goddamn picture with my camera.
Are you
And
serious?
yeah, I mean, so I leave the room. I tell Bill, I said, "Listen, Bill, you got to run this on your own. I'm so confused right now. I'm useless." So he goes, "I'll go outside, get a breath of fresh air." And I go out and I'm sitting at the bar and I'm drinking a glass of water and I sit there for like, and I keep trying to get up and use my equipment and, just, I don't know what attached itself to me, but whatever it was, it must have been old because it didn't know how to use the equipment. So because it was in me, I couldn't use the equipment. I didn't know I couldn't.
Oh.
I couldn't think because it. That I guess if you're 200 years old, you don't know what all this technology is. So I'm sitting there now. The session ends and we're going to switch. The downstairs group is going up the upstairs. Now the psychic comes back down and she looks at me and she goes, "What happened to you?" I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Al, something's wrong." She goes, "You're not you." And she goes, "All of a sudden your aura is dull." She goes, "What's going on?" And I said, "Listen, I can be honest with you. I think, something attached itself to me. So she grabs me and she hits me with some Florida water and she hits me
Uh-huh.
with some holy water and she hits me with a bunch of other different things. We put salt in my shoes to ground me. And she grabs me on a couple of pressure points that release energy,
Uh-huh.
because she's a Reiki master and all that stuff. She knows all about that stuff. And I'm sitting at the bar with her, and I feel my feet warming up where I put the salt. And
Really?
I'm looking at her, and she's looking down at my feet. And it's funny because I can feel this heat rising through my body. And as it's rising, she's following it, like she can see it. And then all of a
Okay.
sudden, I feel like something pops out of the top of my head. Poop, right? And I turned to her and I go, "Did it just release off out of the top of my head?" She goes, "Did you see it?" I go, "No, I felt it." She goes, "You're going to have a terrible headache now for about 20 minutes, but it's going to pass." And she goes, "You'll be all right." She goes, "It wasn't anything negative. It was just something that was attracted to your energy." She goes, "Al, now that you're a psychic, you have to ground before you go to investigations. It's not enough to just
Show
protect.
up.
You
Yeah.
have to ground. You have to ground." I said, "Okay." I thought, everything that I did was more than enough. So then I go upstairs. I'm feeling much better upstairs, but I'm still drained. I'm not me. The
Okay.
investigation ends. I leave. I don't say goodbye to anybody. I can't get out of that building fast enough. I
Okay.
leave. I was wiped out for 2 days. 2 days
Yes.
I was drained, physically drained of all my energy. So the psychic calls me up and she goes, "Al, how you feeling? Just out of curiosity, I want to check on you." And I said, "Thank you for everything you did for me. I'm okay." I was just very, very tired the last 48 hours. She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "It wasn't anything dark or negative. It was just something that was attracted to your light. And, she goes, "You got to be careful now. Now you have to really be." And I was like, "Listen, I know you claim that I'm a psychic, but I don't claim to be a psychic. You know what I mean? I don't believe that I have any kind of, except for my gut feelings. I don't claim that I can guess things or know what's going on, any of that stuff." She goes, "No, I'm telling you, you had an awakening. You have to ground now." So, okay. So it took me 2 days to recover from that. So that's just happened Sunday, and I told the person who was running the investigation calls me and says, "Hey, listen, how you doing?" I said, "I'm okay." She goes, "What do you think about, if we do any more investigations there, would you want to come back?" I said, "Listen, the food was fantastic." I said, "But you'll never be able to get me back into that building ever again. I'm done with that building. I'm out." Because
Really?
whatever is there, it's always there. And if I walk back in, it's going to recognize me and say, "Hey, that's my
And
buddy." Yeah.
what was it? They have reports of hauntings, or what's going on there?
Yeah, there's activity, like the staff hears people coughing, they smell cigarette smoke, stuff gets moved, they see shadow figures in the wall. I mean, it's a big harness racing town.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend of mine, Bill, who was working it, he had a private investigation that he was working, out of his group that had something to do with harness. So he just brought it up that day, and he got tons of answers from the
Okay.
plasma box about his investigation that he's doing somewhere else. But
Somewhere else.
it's all harness connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. So I was like, okay, I'm done with that place. I'll never go back there again. 2 days to recover from that. No, thank you. And so that was the most recent thing that happened. And then I got a phone call. No, not actually, that I got a phone call 2 days ago, yesterday. I don't remember. From a client. She said, "Listen, I've helped this woman out before. She's
Mm-hmm.
had entities in her last condo that she lived in. We figured out that she had um, what they call, not wood nymphs or something like that from the
Okay.
woods.
An elemental?
Elementals, yes,
Okay.
elementals that were coming in because they were pissed off that they cut all the woods down to build a condo that she lived in, right?
Okay. All
And
right.
and my psychic said she's not the only one having issues here. A lot of people in these buildings are having issues because the elementals are not happy. But we ended up cleansing her apartment. So she called me again. She said, "Listen, I'm renting that old one out, and I moved into a townhouse now at a different town, a different location. But I got all this crazy stuff going on." So I was like,
Okay.
"Okay." And she starts telling me about all this crazy stuff. Her husband, who is the most calmest, nicest guy in the world, very relaxed kind of guy, mellow dude. He's intense now. He's very mean to her,
Yeah.
vocally. Um, it's
Yeah.
not having. Her husband's been divorced and has a son from another marriage, and he's a very good father. um, Sees the kid every other weekend, calls the kid every week. It's been a month and a half. He doesn't call the kid. He doesn't
Yeah,
want
that's
nothing to do
weird.
with the kid. He's got, like she said, his eyes are like jet black. She's catching all of
Sure.
these. She's catching shadow figures outside her on her patio at night,
Okay.
looking in the screen. The dog is standing in the corner, growling, barking. Her
Uh-huh.
husband is sleeping, but during the sleep, he's having night terrors, but he doesn't remember them. But he sweats so profusely that she has to towel him down all night long. Otherwise, the bed will be soaking
What?
wet. Then she said she woke up with scratches one morning. So she's telling me all this stuff, and I'm saying, "Listen, something happened. What's going on that you
Yeah.
have all this stuff going on?" And she said, "Well, this woman started working at my husband's company,
Oh.
and I think, she's got the hots for my husband and this, that, and the other thing. And, I told her to back off, and she called the cops on me, told the cops I was harassing her.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, she's given this other woman is given my client husband all these gifts, and everything he brings home is very dark. He's got like a ring with a dragon on it, a male.
Okay.
She's given him a coin with some kind of image of some kind of creature on it. Um, she gave him a shirt. She said the only way I could describe this shirt is that it looks like tarot cards on the shirt, like each individual card.
Right.
But she said the cards are very, very dark. And there's so many different images in each card that you can't even try to figure it out. And then she said the most recent thing he came home with.
Oops. Oh, let me see. Hey, Al. I don't know if you can hear me, but do I got you back? Okay, good.
You back?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I
Go
guess
ahead.
my Wi-Fi went. So he's wearing a cross. So he takes the cross
Okay.
off and he throws it in. He throws it in his jewelry box, right? So the
Okay.
other day, this woman says, you know what? She's a very religious woman, and she's like, you know
Mhm.
what? I'm gonna go get that cross. I'm gonna kiss it and hang it on the wall, and she went to get the cross to kiss it, and she looked down at the cross, and it wasn't an image of Jesus on the cross. It was a broken heart at the top with an image of a skeleton.
What?
Yes. So I told her, I said, your husband has got some kind of spell put on him from this woman. This is what I'm feeling, right? That this
Right.
woman put some, maybe she put a love spell on him, and I don't know if he's cheating on her or what's going on. I'm not,
Right.
it's not none of my business. I don't ask those questions. But I think that this woman at his job put some kind of spell on him to attract him to it. And so
Right.
this client says, well, this woman is Spanish and she lives out in Brooklyn. And I think it may be Santariga and all this stuff. And I go, listen, this is above my pay grade. I said, okay, I don't
It's
play
like,
with this stuff, but I know the perfect person I can call to find out for it. So I called Miss Ada.
okay.
Okay. And I told Miss Ada what's going on. And Miss Ada said, listen, Al, um, you know, this is what I think is going on. I, oh, and another thing, she has a box in her bedroom, in her bathroom.
Uh
It's
huh.
where she puts all her hair ties and stuff.
Right.
It's like a foot long by 8 inches high, 7 inches wide. And on top of it, she has another little box with all her bobby pins in it. And both of them have covers on it. Okay.
Okay.
She took the little bobby pin box off to open up the other box to get a hair tie or a clip or something. And there was 3 inches of water in the box. Nobody knows how the water got in the box.
That's weird.
And she has what do you call it, those night vision cameras, motion sensor cameras,
Uh
and
huh.
she's getting things on her camera like alerts. She's seeing what looks like hundreds of orbs coming through the wall into her house, like
Is it's got
something.
like a motion detector kind of thing?
Yeah, she got a motion detector and she's got all kinds of orbs. She said, not just one flying around here or there, hundreds, like waves of them. So I told her, I said, until I find out from the expert, this is what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you all those objects that your husband brought in the house. First of all, they shouldn't be taken from that woman to begin with, but
Yeah.
everything is hexed. I said,
Yeah.
everything is hexed. And I said, your husband has probably got something attached to him. If you're telling me his eyes go jet black when he gets mad and he doesn't look like himself. I
Sure.
said, so I called Miss Ada, and Miss Ada gave me a whole laundry list of things that she's willing to help this woman through me as a third party at no cost to this woman because
Wow.
Miss Ada loves me. So
Yeah.
because I
She
told her, I
knows
said,
her
look,
stuff too, by the
I
way.
know. I said, listen, I said, this is above my pay grade. I said, and she goes, well, can you just come to the house and cleanse? I said, absolutely not. I just had something attached myself to me last
It's like,
Sunday. I has
it's
no way I'm going anywhere near your house until
yeah.
Miss Ada cleanses it and
Yeah.
everything is gone. I'm not coming to your house, not even for lunch. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, it's a crazy case. Miss Ada believes that the woman that her husband is associating with
Mm-hmm.
is in some kind of satanic cult,
Yeah.
and she feels that her husband has probably already participated in this cult at some point.
I was
You
gonna say,
know?
considering what he's accepted from her already,
Yeah.
there's something there. There's like, yeah,
I mean, just crazy, crazy case. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I told this woman, I said, I got to be brutally honest with you. Everything you've told me scares the shit out of me,
yeah.
and I'm not afraid of anything. I said,
Mm-hmm.
but I said, your husband. It's the only way he's going to get better is if he wants to get better and goes through some kind of exorcism or deliverance or something
Yeah.
to that effect, because
Yes.
he's got something attached to him. And and I mean, you can clean that whole house out all you want, but if there's
Mm-hmm.
something attached to him, every time he
Right.
walks in the house, it's going to be there as well.
Yeah, this is
So
beyond a coworkers that's got the hots for your husband. There's more to
right,
it than
and
that.
I told her, I said, this is not an easy fix. I said, I'm sorry to tell you this. I said, I really am, because I know this woman. She's afraid of everything. And I told her, I
Oh.
said, because originally I told her, I said, oh, you're chicken shit. You're afraid of everything. But I didn't know what was going on. After she told me what's going on, it scared the hell out of me. And
You know what? It's one of those things that your first thing is like, okay, infidelity or jealousy, and then all of a sudden it mushrooms into something darker. And that thing of what you said on the crucifix,
yeah,
that's
it's dark.
very troubling. Yeah.
I don't know what it means. I didn't even bother to look it up to find out what it means, because I don't want to open up any Pandora's boxes. I don't want any of that stuff attaching to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, that's why I said, look, I'll reach out to the expert. And so Miss Ada gave me a laundry list of stuff to give her. I sent it to her today. I haven't heard back from. I don't know if it overwhelmed her and she just lost her mind and freaked out, or if she just didn't see the text yet. You know what I mean? But it's not an easy fix for this particular case. Now I have another case that I'm working on out of North Carolina,
Okay.
where these people moved into this home, very big home. It was, it's like 100 years old, and they moved down there for their grandmother. Grandmother's got Alzheimer's. She's very sick, and but she was a very lively woman before they moved into this house. They moved from Illinois to North Carolina, right, to get her away from
Okay.
I guess, out of the cold of Chicago and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Right.
And one of the two sisters that are taking care of her lives there, and she said, I put my grandmother in the master bedroom. It's got
Mm-hmm.
its own bathroom. It's a really big room, but things are going on in here. She's fallen twice and hurt herself, and so I put a motion sensor camera in there, and she started seeing orbs coming out of the closet and orbs coming out of the
Okay.
bathroom. And she's got one creepy video where something comes out of the basement. You can see the
Whoa.
pixelation on the floor change, right? Something comes out of the basement, and then like kind of goes into a stairwell, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see the back of the entity's head start to form, and then it
Okay.
disappears, and then you see the face of the entity peek out behind the door and look at the camera, and give like a smile, like a really creepy
Oh,
smile.
let me tell you something. I think that's scarier than anything. Something
So
like that smiles is like,
yeah,
holy crap.
and I was talking to her and her sister, and I said, look, I don't know what's there. I'm not a psychic, but the vibe I get is that there's a woman in that room that may be territorial in that bedroom. Could you do any history of the house? I said, well,
Right.
okay. So they did a little history on the house, and they got back to me. Says, turns out the last two families that lived here only lived here for like 2-3 years each, and none of them used that room as a bedroom. They used it as a study or a library.
How
So
interesting.
I guess they were fine long as they weren't occupying that room. Well, but
Sleeping,
this
yeah.
is right. So I told her, I said, look, she's got health issues now. I said, whatever there is not, it's not good. It's draining your grandmother, because you told me your
Mm-hmm.
grandmother was a very lively older woman, and now
Right.
she doesn't want to leave that bed, and she doesn't want to leave that room. I said, you need to get her out of that bed. You need to get her out of that room. Get her out on the front deck, in the back patio,
Yes.
in the fresh air, and the vitamin D. You just need her to get her out of there so she can breathe. I said, and you too. I said, and then I said, try these cleansing things first. I said, I'm feeling that this is an easy fix. So then my partner, who does like remote viewing, he
Mm-hmm.
looked at it, and he says, I'm not seeing the old lady that you're seeing now, but I'm seeing the old man in like in farmer jeans and I think he's the guy who built the house, and I think he's the problem. I said, okay. So then I called the team psychic and I said, I want you to read, I would send her the videos, watch the
Mm-hmm.
videos, read it, see what and she says, okay, this is what's going on. There's a little boy there. It's the little boy that's hurting the old lady because he wants to play with her and he's tripping her and he's hitting her on the bed, and she's not doing it on purpose to hurt her.
Mm-hmm.
She said, there is an old man there that's very territorial at a house, and there is an old lady there as well. And she said, I don't think this is, going to be, I think this is going to be an easy fix, more or less. So I said, okay. So
Right.
I told this woman, all right, just, I told her how to cleanse, what to get to do the cleansing. And she did the cleansing, and the house got better.
Okay.
The house got better. The grandmother wasn't being hurt. The grandmother's getting up and walking around, going outside, spending more time outside on the patio and the balcony. I mean, the deck. And everything was good until the other night. Now, I told her, I said, look, this people who built this house, they're
Mm-hmm.
probably very territorial of this house. They probably love this house. And it's not going to be easy to get them to leave because they're probably dug in like an Alabama tick, I said.
How old is the house?
It's like
You know?
100 years old.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
that old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's very, very big. The woman said it's a big home,
Okay.
and so I said, it's not something dark or demonic. I didn't get that
Mm-hmm.
feeling. My partner didn't get that feeling. My psychic didn't get that feeling. It's just something that's a little bit negative, that's territorial of that room. Okay.
Okay.
So she did the cleansing, and it got better. And the other night, she's laying in bed, 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. Her cat's sleeping on her chest, and her and the cat both wake up at the same time. And they
Okay.
look in the corner, and there's a 5 foot shadow figure standing there, and they're
Oh,
just looking at it. Now, neither one of them, like the cat, didn't take off running or anything like that.
well, that's a
Everybody's
good
just
sign.
right. Everybody's just looking at this figure, like, what the hell's in our room, right? It
Mm-hmm.
turned into like a gray ball of light. She said it was grayish, and
Okay.
it floated over to her and it landed on her chest. Now, when it landed on her chest, it paralyzed her, right? She had sleep paralysis, whatever, she was
Okay.
paralyzed. She couldn't move.
All right.
But it didn't harm her. It didn't harm the cat. As a matter of fact, the cat never left. You know what I mean? The cat stood there.
Okay.
So I told her, I said, listen, again, I'm not a psychic by any stretch of the imagination, but the vibe I'm getting is that was the image of that little boy, and he wanted to play with the cat. I said, now I think if it was dark or demonic or negative in any way, shape, or form, the minute the cat seen it, the cat would have been out of town in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I don't think the cat would have hung around. I said the cat would have been gone. Um, I said, and I think it didn't paralyze you. I said, I think it was either a residual effect of the energy landing on you that paralyzed you, or
Mm-hmm.
B, it was your own fear that paralyzed you.
Yeah.
When you
People don't
see this,
realize that, but that fear will do that to you.
right, when you see something so strange and your come and land on you, you know what I
Sure.
mean? It could freak you out. So now my psychic doesn't associate with clients because she doesn't charge for her services, and
Mm-hmm.
people tend to take advantage of her. They call her for every little thing.
Yes.
But my psychic said, listen, she feels like she needs to talk to this person one on one. She feels like this woman isn't getting the gist of everything. And so I gave my psychic this woman's personal phone number, and I'm assuming they either spoke already or they're going to speak. And I told this woman, I said, listen, no matter what my psychic tells you, no matter how crazy it sounds,
Mm-hmm.
believe me, I never believe her when she tells me stuff. And at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, she's always 100% right. So
Yeah.
no matter what you think, if you think she's nuts when she tells you what she tells you, because my psychic is saying that the family that's there isn't the family that built the house. It's actually her relatives waiting for the old lady to pass to move on to take to the other side.
Right.
So,
you know what? People don't realize that that happens. One time, I myself had a case very similar in a way. It was a friend of a friend, and we went over, and same thing. Her mom, elderly, they had moved her into the house, and same thing. Something was going on in that room where she was. Same thing. She was okay. I mean, she's elderly, but she was okay. And then all of a sudden, she had become disoriented. You know, this thing that was marked. Basically, what it turned out was that her ex-husband, the father of the client, but her parents had divorced many years before.
Sure.
He was a real SOB, to make a long story short. But this guy basically was trying to get her to die because he hadn't crossed over, and she had always, in other words, he wanted her to die and tried to vouch for him to get into heaven. He was afraid of
crossing over,
right, and that he would get in trouble. So he was going to use her as his ambassador,
right?
Okay, to get him in, because he had been a real son of a gun with her. Yeah, they had divorced many years before, but she was always a good person, you know, throughout her lifetime.
Right.
And he was trying to hurry her along because he needed somebody to, hey, and she had always been like a very, how can I say, forgiving kind of person with him, even though they had divorced.
Right.
So he kind of like wanted her to like, hey, be his advocate, for lack of a better word.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And he had been hanging. He had not gone on because he was afraid of, you know, when you think back
of all the shit,
you know, I'm going to the hot place or wherever, because you those things you can't, you know, wherever you go, there you are. You know, you can't escape the truth of what you've done.
Right.
And when I told her about this, she goes, God, that's, you know, what you're describing, that sounds exactly like something my dad would do. She goes, that's exactly like something that he would do.
Yeah, and there's, believe me, there's a lot of people like that. And, you know, and the funny thing, you bring that up, because when I was talking to the client, and I said, and my psychic is insistent, it's her family members, right? And she says, no, my family's all screwed up. Nobody likes anybody. Everybody hates everybody. You know, why would they be here? And maybe they're there for that reason alone, because grandma was such a sweet person that they want to use grandma's good energy to get into the other side. You know, that thought never crossed my mind, but, you know, that's definitely a possibility. Absolutely.
Yeah, if we put her at the front of the line, you know, she's going to get everybody else in.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm going to run that by my psychic when I talk to her about that, because, you know, the woman, the client insists that it's the family who built the house. My psychic insists it's her family members that are there, and that the other family has already moved on, you know. But she says that when her family came there, they were the ones to move the other family on. Like when the other people owned the house and nobody used that room, the original family, the owners of the house, were still there. But her family's energy, when they came, they kind of pushed them out and moved them on, and now they've kind of taken over.
We've taken over.
Yeah, and maybe they're doing exactly what you said, pushing grandma along to ride her coattail to the light. You know,
maybe. It's like, they're like
a great theory, and you know what? I love it, and I'm gonna run that by my.
Let me tell you something, and a lot of times, you know, and this has nothing to do with the age of the home, but I tell everybody, you know, a lot of times people, they, you know, I tell them, you know, you should cleanse the home, even if it's freshly painted or whatever, even if it's modern or there's no dark history to the house. I said, because something of like what you described, I said, nowadays people use certain rooms as sick rooms. If you had somebody that was in hospice or just sick for a length of time, you know, and this was the room that they used.
They spent all their energy in at the end.
That energy is there. It's like in the fabric. It's imprinted in the fabric of that room. And that's why when you get certain people that will start using it as a bedroom, they start getting all these weird symptoms.
Yep.
And they're like, they don't get it. Or if you're old, you know, some people chalk it up to they're old. But sometimes basically I'm not saying that this is not what's occurring here. Sometimes it's not per se an intelligent haunting. What it is that person basically is picking up the symptoms of whoever lived, because let's face it, if you're sick, you spend a great deal of time in that room, in your bedroom, in that bed. If you had some type of terminal disease that, or wasting illness, what they used to call that. And I also tell people, or if it was an older home, once upon a time, there wasn't like now that they have this warehousing of older people or sick people. Basically, people would die at home.
Yeah, I mean, everybody took care of their own family. Absolutely.
Yeah, people would take care of their families.
And they had the wakes right in the living room.
Yeah. I said people gave birth at home and people would die at home and they would have the wakes. And even if people were sick sometimes for years, there was not, how we think of people being in hospitals or nursing homes.
Yeah.
Back then, 9 times out of 10, and of course, I tell people, there was once upon a time when doctors would actually do house visits.
Absolutely, yeah.
And your doctor would basically come to your house to look in on his patient. And this wasn't uncommon. And I'm going to say everybody that died at their house was basically stayed behind. But a lot of times their symptoms or whatever was going on is there.
A residue.
It's a residue. Yeah, especially if they spent a few years in bed or just ill. Or I said, back then people, had consumption, which is tuberculosis. Yes. People could linger for years before they actually died. Yeah. Same thing with a lot of, what they call cancers and all this stuff.
Sure.
People don't realize that. That's why I tell everybody, whenever you move someplace, you need to cleanse it. And it's really funny because a lot of people that when we're talking about like the negative aspects of a cleansing, when you're trying to cleanse something negative, and they'll do the salt or the saging or whatever. I've heard of people saying, well, you know what? This certain person or these family members or certain even friends, they stopped coming to my house. And I said, chances are they've got some type of attachment. And by you basically putting down barriers, guess what you're doing? They don't want to or feel uncomfortable or whatever's writing with them is talking, basically deflecting them because of what you've done. Because a lot of people say, you know what, after I did that cleansing or the saging or the whatever, so-and-so or some people, they don't come or they come and they leave. I've had family members
they don't feel comfortable there,
right, that will be there and half an hour later, all of a sudden they were supposed to spend the day or the afternoon or whatever, and they're gone.
Yeah.
I said, well, have you realized that sometimes when you do that, basically, if something's piggyback on them, guess what?
Yeah, it could have an attachment. I mean, it's not, it may not show itself.
Of course not.
It may only show itself to him when he's asleep, in the subconscious, and
especially if it's been around them for a long time and they're kind of used to it,
Yeah, he's used to the energy, the feeling of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Haven't you? I'm sure you've heard of those people that do that Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, where hey, this is a great person, but every once in a while they become like they become like a different personality.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. I always sage my house. You know what I mean? I got all kinds of barriers.
I tell everybody when I was doing more active investigations since the 90s, I was saging. I would sage my car. I would open the trunk because I had experiences of weird stuff. And I remember some of the newer investigators would look at me and go, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going to make sure I get no hitchhikers."
Funny. It's funny you bring that up because I was outside one of our investigations again, one of these para-unity kind of group things, and we were all outside in the parking lot, and I was saging, and I open up all my equipment and I sage my equipment because I'm using the equipment to kind of make contact, right? And I saged my car, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing? You didn't even start yet." I said, "Listen, everything I'm doing now before I go in, I'm going to do again before I leave this place." I said,
"Yes,
nothing is coming home with me. Absolutely nothing." The last thing I want to see, we were speaking to the Warrens before, right? When I was younger, my brother was a parapsychologist, right? He was good friends. good friends with Ed, and he took me to one of their symposiums, and they were talking about all the stuff that they did, all the investigations, and they were talking about one time that they were coming home from an investigation, and Ed looked in the mirror and there was somebody in the back seat with him,
There you go.
and I had to drive home that night, which was like, an hour away from my brother's, up in
That was a long ride, huh?
rural Connecticut to rural New York. And let me tell you something, the whole ride home, I refused to look in that rear view mirror.
I bet.
I
Like,
would
man, what am I
not
gonna?
look absolutely not look in that rear. I looked out the side mirrors, but I didn't look at that one
No.
because the last thing I wanted to see was somebody in the back seat, man.
It's like, man, what do I do? It's like pull over and then what?
Yeah.
But you know what? You mentioned something, Al, and I think it was really smart of you when you said, "Hey, you know what? With these cases that you're like, hey, I'm going to steer clear of this," and I tell everybody, when I was doing investigations, one of my first tip-offs that there was something actually intelligent there was one of two things. And anybody who's done investigations for a while will tell you will get signs. In other words, whatever is there will know that you will be coming.
Yes, absolutely.
And you will get a visit. And they will be checking you out. As a matter of fact, I told people, I said, one of two things. Either one, I knew when I was going to get a new case. But I tell everybody, I used to have in my house where my son is living at, I used to have one of those detached garages, which I converted into my office.
Okay.
And the window was one of those, what do you call it? Those frosted glasses.
Okay.
Frosted. And it would look at this little walkway I had between that wall and my backyard. And I would put like my trash cans and stuff there. It was like a little narrow walkway.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sure enough, whenever I see with some shadow dart back and forth, I said one of two things. One, I'm about to get a case. Sure enough, I would, like within the most a week. Or two, if I had taken the case, that was my first tip off that whatever was there was intelligent.
Yeah.
That was my first. I was like, man, I don't even have to go there to know that what's there is not residual or nothing at all. It's intelligent because they come check you out. And if it's dark, okay, manipulate, they will try to detour you from going.
All right.
One of two ways, nightmares, or scaring you,
all right,
or stuff like that. In other words, what you were describing, if you're not ready for that yet, that's a great idea. Because if there is something in those cases that is malevolent, I'm going to use a real dramatic word, and they think that you're going to interfere or help that client, they're aware of it. If you, distance has nothing there. That doesn't figure into the scope of things. They will come to you to basically either check you out or detour you. And you're thinking, well, how does that work? If this person is in another state, it doesn't work like that in the spiritual world, in the metaphysical plane. It's almost like, when troops reconnoiter to see what's coming their way, if you get an intelligent haunting like that, yes, they do that.
And and it's funny you say that because I know how sensitive the client that I'm working with is, and I guess I told you she's chicken shit of everything, and and I just know that because she's afraid of her own shadow. And like I said, the laundry list of stuff that Miss Ada gave me to do, I could already feel that what's ever there is going to get in her head and say, how do they expect you to do all of this crap?
Yes.
And then you know what's going to happen?
Yes.
She's not going to do maybe she does one or two things, easy stuff, but she doesn't do everything that she's supposed to do. And then she has to live with this stuff for, ever.
Do you know how many times I went to investigations and sometimes you would schedule them a week or 2 weeks ahead, to coordinate it. And one of two things, either people would call at the last minute and call it off. That was very common.
Very common. Absolutely.
or two, or people say, you know what? It's really funny, but everything's quieted down.
Yeah, everything's good now. Yeah.
Everything is good. No, I can't figure that out. And it's like, yeah, of course, because they're hoping that you're gonna the threat level is gonna go down, and you're just gonna let it forget it. Okay.
Yeah. And it'll just come back gradually, and you won't even notice.
Yes.
It'll blend into the scenery. Yes.
Yes. But
Yeah.
no, I had the thing about the people would contact, because I worked with a foundation that covered all of Florida, and, they would trickle down, and, if you could, either was in my area or Marlene, we need, and they would send me sometimes copies of emails, or I would speak to the person. And when they called, they were like, oh my God, I need you here like yesterday. Help, 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 help. This is happening and we don't know. And then all of a sudden, finally, everybody scrambles trying to get a team together to go out there. And then at the last minute, no, we don't want you here. So wait a minute. You were like basically pulling your hair out because everything.
Couldn't get there fast enough. Yeah.
Right. What happened? And it is exactly what you described right now, where it's that you think, man, how can that work? Where they basically psych you out to, it's not a big deal. You're overreacting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know the client. I've dealt with her before. She's a sweetheart, and she is chicken shit at everything. But like I said, she's also very, like, every little thing stresses her out. And I could just imagine when she sees that list from this,
she's going to get overwhelmed. Yeah.
She's going to get overwhelmed. And then she's going to hear voices in her head and say, come on. You're not going to do all of this shit. They can't expect you to do all of this. And she's going to say, right, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D because that's easy. But F through Z, I'm not going to do it because it's too complicated. And they're going to say, that's it. You're right. That's all you should do. Yeah. And that'll be the end of it.
Or she'll do a couple of things and then it'll slow down. And she's like, okay, I don't need to do the rest of that. It's good. Whatever. I don't need to go through the whole laundry list of things. And that works. And people don't realize that they're being manipulated.
And I always tell people, once you start these cleansing things, you have to be diligent.
Yes.
You have to do it. Whether I said, because the woman I was talking with originally from North Carolina, the client she said, well, it's a big house. I'm all by myself, just me and my grandmother. I guess I could get around to it once a week. And I was like, well, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Once a week is not going to do anything for you because yes, you may
eventually.
I said, you may get it out or it may go hide somewhere until the cleansing evaporates. And then by the time you get around to doing it again, it's already back to full strength and it's back in. Yeah. I said, you're at a stalemate. You're just pushing against each other. Yeah. I said, you need to be diligent. Either do it every day or every other day, but you got to stay on top because the more you do it, the weaker it becomes until eventually it doesn't have the strength to fight you and it just leaves.
Yeah, it doesn't want to be there anymore.
No, because it doesn't have the strength to fight. Like, So I said, but if you do it once a week and you weaken it, and then it goes hides for a week, and by the time you get around to do it again, it's back to full strength. You're always here. You're always here. Yes. And I said, it's defeating the purpose. You have to be diligent. It's like, I can't stress it enough. People are just not diligent enough.
No.
It's like you said, once everything calms down, everybody says, okay, we're good now. And they stop, which is the worst possible thing you could do.
That a lot of people sometimes see these shows out and, where shows that the psychic or whoever comes in, whoever they got, comes in and does the thing and the sunshine comes in through the window. It's over. And it's like, that's a show, by the way.
Entertainment. Oh, speaking of shows, I did two movies last summer.
Really? Which ones?
I did a 2-hour documentary for a private filmmaker.
Okay.
It's called Star Children of Pine Bush, and it's all about experiencers or abductees who live in the Hudson Valley area. Okay. And then I did another one for the Travel Channel.
Okay.
With a couple of big stars, and me and my partner, they asked us to come on, and all I can say is we brought it. The big stars that were there, and these are big stars in the paranormal world. They were giddy like schoolgirls.
When did they have they aired it yet?
They had I spoken the producer and right the producer, and they said it's in editing, but they're
Yeah.
not sure if they're going to show it because they both have to do with UFOs, and a big
Right.
disclosure is coming up next week, right?
Yeah.
So they don't know if they're going to try to get it out before the disclosure, or if they're going to wait till the fall because it was filmed in the fall and they
Right.
want
So
it.
it. Yeah.
It just matched like it's real time. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yes.
they're not really sure. But the other one is going to actually be premiered at the Pine Bush UFO Festival this year. They're doing a
Okay.
2-day festival, and they're going to premiere it there. You know, so
Yeah, no, because this is the thing. All these shows, everything was canceled last year. All these events were
all the
done.
symposiums. I mean, we usually do Pine Bush in New York. We do the New Jersey Parent Unity thing, and we do the Connecticut haunted Connecticut. You know, the tri-state area up here. We usually get invited to, and everything got of course got canceled last year, so we didn't do anything. But so far we've only got one call back to Pine Bush. I don't know what's going on with Jersey or Connecticut. I have to,
Okay.
reach out to people, but I'm sure when it comes around Halloween, we'll
Yeah,
start
of
getting more
course.
phone calls. Because
Sure.
there's a couple of local libraries that want
Mm-hmm.
us to come up and do presentations around Halloween as well that we're booked
Yes.
for. So but I haven't really discussed the movies, the
Yeah,
documentaries with anybody yet. So I
that's
mean,
fantastic.
yeah, it
So,
was.
what are you at liberty to say which show on the Travel Channel it is, or no?
I don't even know if they have a title for it yet.
Is this going to be then a new show or new?
Well, it was filmed as a 2-hour documentary,
Oh, okay, okay. I understand now. It's not like
but
a weekly show.
but but when I spoke to the producer last week, the Travel Channel was so excited with the evidence that was captured that
Okay.
they're leaning towards making it a regular a
Okay.
weekly program. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it looks like it's going to get picked up as a
That would be
weekly
great.
show. Yeah. And I told them, I said, listen, we have these ancient stone chambers up here that, no one knows
Mm-hmm.
who built. And, we could bring you to those and show you what we did there and the evidence we captured there. And these people were so blown away by the stuff
So
that we
now
put.
that let's jump from ghosts to UFOs. What
Okay.
do you think that they're really going to give us a valid disclosure, or is it just
Absolutely not.
okay? Okay, I was going to say I hope you don't think they are because I don't
No,
think they are.
absolutely not. I mean, the stuff that they're going to show
Yeah.
is probably going to be 10, 15 years old video. I mean, it's all going to be legitimate
No, yeah,
military
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
But at the
yeah.
end, when you start dissecting it, it's going to be like that's nothing.
That's like, it's just like the stuff they've been showing now on the news. Now it's on mainstream news.
Yeah.
Navy jets track UFO, and they show you that
Yeah.
3-minute video, whatever it is. That's all you're gonna get. You're gonna get stuff like that.
I
It's
saw I
not
saw that video one time. This was when I was in Miami. I belonged to a group of UFO, whatever. And MUFON came and did a presentation. They showed that video. This was years ago.
years ago. Yeah.
It was that where he
Oh
shows the
yeah,
little thing, and
that video is like 5 years old. Absolutely.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, okay, this has been around for a while. Like, why are they acting like, whoa? It's like I saw this years ago where basically these pilots are seeing this thing maneuver in ways that they're like, what is that? And supposedly, of course, it's always been that this has been seen for years and years and years by different types of pilots, but it was like everybody, it was you didn't
Yeah,
talk about it.
they had a gag order on them. Yeah, they weren't
Yeah.
allowed to talk about it. Yeah, well, I got a family member who was a high-ranking Marine in
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina,
Okay.
and he does a lot of stuff. He goes back and forth from South Carolina to Florida. I forgot the name of the base in Florida. They have a base in Florida as well, and
Okay.
they do a lot of helicopter convoys.
Okay.
And he told me, he says, we see these orange orbs all the time out
Yes.
over the ocean. He said, and you know what? when the helicopter pilots see him and they say, "What do we want to do?" And he says, "And if I'm in command, I just tell them to keep flying to our destination
Yeah,
and
keep
leave
going.
them alone. As long as they don't bother us, we're not going to bother
Mm-hmm.
them." And he says, every officer who does that route back and forth,
Right.
and every pilot that's flying these helicopter convoys, he says, everybody has seen them millions of times. Everybody knows they're UFOs, and they've
Yeah.
never had any hostile confrontations with them,
Right.
and the military has a no hostile policy. They tell the pilots and the commanding officers, no hostility towards these crafts. Just leave them alone. Just go to your objective and come back. And he said they've been there for years, years.
Now, why do you think that now all of a sudden they want to be so? Before, if you talked about UFOs was like on on shows where like, yeah, they talk about all that weird stuff, and now all of a sudden it's gone mainstream. Like almost, I want to say almost like right away. Why do you think that is?
I think, honestly, I know people are going to say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'm really not. I have no time for conspiracies or theories. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I don't argue conspiracy theory, because no one ever wins those arguments. So you can't win them. But I think it's got something to do with a false flag alien attack that the
There you
government,
go. Okay.
it's going to be like which
Yes.
what do they call that? What do they call that imaging when they in Star Wars when they had the little guy come out? I forgot what it's called.
Like I know what you're talking
You know what
about.
I'm talking about? Like a video or whatever.
Right.
I think it's
Hologram kind
a
of thing.
holographic attack from aliens, and the government is going to come in and save everybody and say, "See how much we love you and how much you need us."
Let
That's
me
what
tell
I
you something.
think.
That'll put that right there. I can see a lot of people going, "Oh my God,"
Because it's all about keeping
Yeah.
the population in fear,
Yes.
right? Long
And
as everybody's
unfortunately, yeah, it is
afraid
that way.
and everybody looks to Big Brother to protect us, Big Brother can do whatever they want, and people look
Well,
the
you
other
know what?
way.
I think that there's been a big pig, that's understating the big part, loss of confidence in the authorities, whatever you want to call them. And it's like, yeah, we need something really like that shock and awe kind of thing to bring everybody back in line, and that'll do it.
Yeah,
That'll
that'll
do it.
do it. That will make people submit to their fears, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people here that are very afraid of any of alien life. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me in
Right.
this
It's like,
day and
what now?
age
What?
that
Like,
you can look up in the skies and
mhm,
see all those stars and all those galaxies and
mhm.
universes, and think that we're the only intelligent life
Right.
out there, and then be afraid if you come into contact with another intelligence. Why? If these people are so much more advanced than us, these
Yes.
entities are these aliens, and they have ships that can go through time warps and portals, and faster
Right.
than the speed of light. They can do all this stuff. Don't you think if they wanted to annihilate us, we would be annihilated
A
already
long time ago.
a
Yes, of
long time
course.
ago? Yeah,
Of
it's a long.
course.
I don't think they're here to. Now, don't ask my partner this, because he says they're all here to kill us. You know what I mean?
You know what? Part of me, okay. I guess I wanna. I'm one of those that sits on the fence. There's people that want all of the ETs to be like ET. As in,
Yeah, right.
the very,
Yeah, no, I don't believe that either.
that
You know what I mean?
the phone home, and they're botanists. Picking flowers in the fields. Like
Yeah,
ET.
yeah.
Whatever. And you're gonna feed them, what was it, Skittles or whatever? No, not
Yeah.
Skittles. Whatever.
Yeah, something
You
like
know,
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that, or like, you remember that old show from the Twilight Zone, that the cookbook, like that, yeah, the
Oh my
serve
God.
mankind, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's almost, but at the same time, you don't want to go on one way or the other, because I think the thing is that we really, really don't know.
Well,
We
I think, you know, I don't know how many different races there are, obviously,
Right.
but I think they all have their own agenda. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
some are good, and some aren't so good, and some are fucking rotten. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
And I think you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But I think however bad the bad ones are, they must not be able to just do as they please, because otherwise they'd taken over the galaxy,
Right.
right, the universe. But so but like my partner always says, if you want to know about disclosure, go watch Close Counters of the Third Kind. He said
Mm-hmm.
he said when Heimlich comes into the movie, he goes, "That's your disclosure." He goes, "That's all the disclosure you need."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with him absolutely. I think there was more disclosure in that than whatever these people are
Yeah,
going
it
to
was,
show.
but people saw it just strictly as a great sci-fi
Entertainment.
entertainment.
Yeah,
Strictly, it was wow. It was like, but that's entertainment, and yeah, it was it. Yeah, very, very. Now we're looking back at it and thinking, yeah, but
there was
no,
a lot of
it's
truth.
well, and then sometimes I think, you know what, whatever or however many they are, if they really wanted to communicate really, really with us, they wouldn't have to need to go through the government. If it's like, okay, well, you guys are taking too long. we're gonna we're gonna we're gonna communicate with the rest of you guys. Get the government out of the way. Everybody thinks that the government has this. How can I say, they're the ones that are calling the shots with the
Right.
extraterrestrials if they really truly wanted to communicate with us. Which I'm thinking, not really. They could say, hey, you know what, you guys are basically, you're using this as a power play, and that's not what we want. I'm talking from the perspective of they were here to really help us.
Right.
They'd be like, okay, just be quiet, sit over there, we're going to talk to the people or whatever. Hey,
Like I
we're here
said,
from wherever, and
they may be assisting us as far as technology goes and helping us in that way to advance our technology, but we
sure.
don't know what their agenda is. What's their end of the deal? What are they getting out of it? You know what I mean?
Well,
And I don't think the government is ever going to like say, hey, listen, just we want to let you guys know, in the Mesa in New Mexico, there's a base under the Mesa. No,
yeah.
we're gonna take everybody for a virtual tour there. So go on Zoom. No,
It's like
that
doing it.
that disclosure is never going to happen.
Okay,
Absolutely
but
not.
but
Yeah.
this is Marlene's theory of worst case scenario. As much as you think people would get scared as if they ever basically disclosed and said, yes, there's extraterrestrials, and like you said, we've been conditioned, like, let's not even talk about the flying saucer, but like, what was it? The Close Encounters movie came out in the 80s, early 80s, late 70s, something like that.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but by that time, because before extraterrestrials were kind of like, you had to be aware of them. All right. Then forward, it was like I said, ET, Close Encounters. So we were getting conditioned to that idea of like, hey, it's nothing to fear. And then of course the X-Files came along, and that whole thing where the government has, the governments and the extraterrestrials are like this.
Yes.
But what if that's not the case, Al? What if they were forced to admit that there was very little that they really know about them? You want to see people wigged out? Hey, where are they from? We don't know. You don't? Okay. I mean, you mean you guys not really? Well, how are they hostile? We really don't know. In other words, if at the end of the day, governments or authorities, whatever you want to call them, really didn't know as much as we give them credit for,
Right.
I think that would wig people out more. Everybody's saying, oh, because you back engineered all this stuff, right? No, not really. We're just we're smart. We figured stuff out, maybe a little bit, but no, we kind of like felt that we might get in trouble if we back engineered technology that we might have exploded. I don't know.
Hey,
In other words,
speaking of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
that's okay.
because it just popped in my head. Speaking of governments and stuff like that, the woman who was in charge of shooting the documentary for Pine Bush, right?
Mm-hmm.
She, listen to this story. This is going to blow your mind. And I believe her 100%. My partner believes her 100. My brother believes her 100%. Okay, that's how sincere she is. She said to me, she said, she's a retired nurse. Her mother's a retired nurse. Her aunt is a retired nurse. Her grandmother was a retired nurse.
Okay.
So when her grandmother passed away, her mother got all her grandmother's photo albums. Now, no one ever discussed, when grandma was in the military, doing her nursing thing, where she was located or what she did, what she's seen. Nothing was ever spoke of. So when her mother died, this is a great story. When her mother died, she's going through all her mother's photo albums, looking at, back and remember when she was a kid and this, that, and the other thing. Now she comes across older photo albums and she starts
Okay.
seeing images of when her mother was a child and her grandmother was young. She comes across a photograph of her grandmother, who was the head nurse at an army base in New Mexico, okay?
Oh.
Surrounded with doctors and military officers with an alien autopsy in front of her.
Oh.
So she finds this picture and she calls her aunt up immediately and she says, "What is this legitimate? Is this real? Did grandma work in New Mexico? And is this a real photograph?" And she said, "Yes, but we're not allowed to discuss that because your grandmother filed was forced to file a what do you call it? This an information.
Right. Right. In other words, let
Yeah,
me tell
she
you
she
something.
she couldn't talk about it, right? They made her file sign one of those forms, right?
Non-disclosure agreements,
Not
which,
just right.
by the way, there were back then. They knew that it wasn't even that. Do you think she would have risked getting like, you
No,
know?
but and her aunt told her that not only did they make grandma sign that disclosure agreement, but they threatened to bury her in the desert
I
if she
believe it.
spoke.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so she's got this picture. So she's like, well, all my life I've never seen this picture. No one in the house has ever talked about it. But it's 3 generations of nurses. So she looks on the back of the picture, and of course back then everything was made by Kodak. The paper, the
Yes.
film, everything.
Hmm.
Kodak, as an ex-photographer, I know this for a fact. Because as soon as she told me this, I said, well, you have to go on that paper. There's going to be a batch number on that paper. And you have
Okay.
to call Rochester, New York, where Kodak is located, and ask them to find out A, what year that paper was made, and B, where it was sent to. She goes, I'm already ahead of you. I already did that. And she got pulled out a letter from somebody from Kodak from Rochester, New York, saying yes, this batch was made in 1942, and
Holy crap.
it was sent to Area 51. So
Talk about, I'm
so
getting
that
chills here. Like,
that
what?
just the paper that they used to print the photo on validates everything she said.
So she's okay. So in other words, it's like, yeah, grandma was really there in case she doubted
Grandma
her
was
own.
really, and the alien in front of grandma. And the great thing about it is, all these doctors and all these officers are all standing behind the autopsy
Mhm.
table. No one's wearing masks. Everybody's smiling. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, of course, it's
And
like, yeah.
they got this alien body opened up with all this stuff going on. But I mean, but the alien that they're actually dissecting, right,
Hmm.
autopsying, is like, it's not a little 3-foot alien. It's like a 5-6 foot alien. It's a big alien.
Okay.
But I mean, like,
In other
everything
words, it's not like those grays that they say, oh, they're small or they're
well,
short
if
or whatever.
everything you hear about, what you would call it, Roswell, that's where
Hmm.
she was located. She was based out of Roswell, New Mexico. Everything you hear about Roswell, the coffins are only 3 feet long, you know?
Right, right. I've heard
Well,
that.
then
Yeah.
where did this one come from? Because this guy was easily 5 feet long. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so when she told me that story, she showed me that picture. Then she showed me the documentation from, Kodak itself, like whoever, checked that batch lab, and lab, whatever. It just blew my mind. And I told my brother this. My brother's like, I can't believe it. I said, Frank, she'll send you a copy of the paper with the batch number on it for yourself, and you could reach out to Rochester and Kodak and see what
Let me
they
tell you something.
send
I
you.
hope she put that away somewhere where it's safe.
Well, yeah, she has. I think she does have it in a safe somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, just blew me away. Just, I mean, it validated everything this woman said. And that letter from Kodak is just,
I mean,
proof of the pudding.
I believe that for all these people that have come out, and whether they're military or ex-medical or whoever that have come out towards the end, and just said, yeah, look, I saw this, I participate. I said, there's 3 or 4 of them that never did, because they're like, they didn't want to risk their careers or their families or their lives. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to keep quiet about this.
And you know what? A lot, especially the military people, even on their deathbeds, they don't confess because they don't want to humiliate their family, their legacy, and their family that they're leaving behind. They don't want to tarnish their record or anything like that. So they just take it to the grave. And then there's a lot of them that do on their deathbed said, "Hey, listen, when we landed on the goddamn moon, there was ships on the moon and it was aliens watching us."
Well, think about it also, Al. Let's say that same scenario you said. Here's this person who kept it to themselves, might not even have told their own family. Maybe they did. But what are they thinking? You know what? If I spill the beans now, whoever the powers are, depending maybe on their level of knowledge, they're going to be looking at my family thinking, what did I tell them? In other words, I'll be gone.
But
maybe I'm leaving them in the hot seat.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Spouses, family, children. How much did you tell them all these years? Yeah, maybe you're dying and dead and gone or whatever. But how much did you disclose to all these people? Yeah.
Yeah, you put your family in harm's way. You really do.
In harm's way, depending on what it is that you actually had knowledge of.
Yeah.
Maybe with details that, like you said, like exactly like what this thing with the Rochester, the Kodak paper, basically that you have some type of proof or evidence or knowledge that they can't discount it like, oh, the person's crazy, it's conspiracy, they made it up. No, they know some piece of knowledge that it's like, this person's saying the truth. So yeah, I think a lot of people, they're not going to put their family in harm's way or leave that behind. Yeah.
Well, when she showed me that picture and she showed me that paper, I knew immediately, being an ex-photographer, that hey, listen, this is an easy trace, because all I ever used was Kodak paper, and no matter what kind of paper you buy, whether it's gold, silver plated, or just regular paper, they all have batch numbers and they're all dated.
Let me tell you something. If you think grandma didn't talk just because of a disclosure agreement, no. I bet you she was protecting her kids and her family.
I'm sure she was. Yeah, absolutely.
She was like, nah, you know what? Yeah, okay. I know it and whatever, but I'm not going to risk something happening to me, my kids.
And like her aunt told her, said, yeah, not only did they make grandma sign a non-disclosure paperwork, but they told her, if you ever talk, we're going to bury you in the desert. Yeah. No one's going to find you out there. And that's the end of it.
Hey, a tragic accident. You have an accident.
Just disappear off the face of the earth, and that's the end of you, Yeah. And, when people who have that kind of power say stuff like that to you, you got to take them at their word, because they have the power to do that, and no one's going to question them.
Yeah. Are you really going to call their bluff?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
You're not about to find out the hard way.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. I mean, I just had to tell you that story because I
think that is a great story.
I never told that to anybody yet.
There's got to be a lot of other people that are in similar scenarios that maybe have some piece of whatever it is, and they're like, you know what? Maybe I should disclose, but maybe not, because that could go sometimes wrong. If it's not part of the, how can I call? What would you call it? If it's not part of what they want to publicize or disclose
of their agenda, yeah.
You might find yourself on the wrong end of that whole scenario. So sometimes I don't blame some people for saying, you know what? I'm just going to keep quiet. I'm just
look, the smart ones keep quiet.
Yeah.
The dumb ones end up dead, committing suicide, something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. The amount of and it's like and of course nobody investigates too hard.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, no.
That's it.
The coroner signs off on whatever you want them to sign off on, and that's the end of that. Then they put the body in the furnace and they burn it up, and then there's no.
Let me tell you something, and this is on the closing of the show. I mean, if anybody has any doubts, look at what happened to Epstein. Hello.
Yeah.
When people think as far as what can be passed off, as far as suicide, nobody watching, cameras off. There's a lot of people there's sometimes very powerful people are behind the scenes. And it's like, that saying, dead men tell no tales?
Absolutely. That's the truth.
Yeah,
that's the
the way
truth.
it
I mean,
works.
like I said, when you're dealing with the government and they're
Mhm.
not only are they control, they have all the power, but they're controlling the media as well.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you're not
Exactly.
even going to hear about the stories. Like
No.
before, when we were discussing about the Asians in the city, you never
Oh,
hear
of
any of
course
that
not.
stuff.
That
No.
I had never heard of that.
Yeah.
And I get my news from a lot of different sources because I want to see, like, okay, I want to get the real. I mean, I just don't.
Yes. No, I
And
don't
I'd
even
never heard
watch.
anything like
I don't
that.
watch. I don't watch regular
No,
news
no,
anymore.
it's
No.
a waste of time.
Yeah,
It's
it's all propaganda. Absolutely. Yes.
so everybody's like, I think a lot of people are catching on, except there's always a few out there that are like, huh. But anyway, Al, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to talk to you. You
This
got
was
to come
great.
back. And
Absolutely. Whenever you
if
want
you
me.
find out about when they're going to release any of these, either the documentary or the other one for the Travel Channel,
Okay.
if you could either send me an email, anything,
Okay. I'll
so
send.
that
Yeah, I'll let you know.
and just for my for the podcast listeners, is there a website that anybody can go to just to follow up with you?
Yeah. I mean, you could go to the Bronxville Paranormal Society. We have
Mm-hmm.
.com, and we're all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, everything. I mean, if
Okay.
anybody wants to get a hold of me for anything, you can find me most of the time on Facebook. I don't have the patience to go through all the different media
Yeah.
sites. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a Facebook guy. That's where I do most of my stuff, all my posting.
Okay.
But we do have a website. We also have if you go on the website, you'll see we have two hotline numbers, one for the UFO project, the New York State UFO project, and one
Mm-hmm.
for, because I'm also the director of the New York State UFO project, the director of the North American Sasquatch Organization, and
Right.
director of the North American Dog Grant Project, New York State chapter. But the UFO project and the BPS page, the Bronxville Power, we have
Mm-hmm.
two hotlines set up for that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Again, thank you so much. It has been great to talk to you. It has been
It's been
absolutely
a long
wonderful.
time, and I'm glad we got to talk tonight. Good night.
Good night. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Hi. Let me tell you, I'm going to make this ending real short because I spent so much time before we started rolling talking to Al that it's dark outside and my chickens because, I go out there and I put some of these, there's always some in the group that hang out where they shouldn't hang out. And that's how I lost a few of them to these big owls that I have out here where I'm living. So I got to put them in the coop because they just hang out like, hey, I'm going to roost here. And then I find them decapitated the next day. That's how the owls out here do away with the chickens. But anyway, I think I love speaking to Al. I love it. It's Al Santariga. I mean, he knows his stuff. He's been doing a lot of into the investigations, different aspects of the paranormal. Like he said, Bigfoot, the UFO, ghosts, the Dogman, all of that for a long time. And he's got fantastic stories. And I think that, a lot of the things that people are reading about now or hearing about now, whereas before a lot of the stuff was really far-fetched, even the stuff with the UFO, people believed in it. And there were people out there that say, yeah, I could believe that there's life out there in the universe. Yeah, of course. But the thing as far as UFOs or extraterrestrials, because at the end of the day, UFO is unidentified flying object, but an actual extraterrestrial, it was like, yeah, okay, sure, all right. But it would the possibility, actual truth. Well, that's a better word for it. Truth that there is something like that. I don't know, that disclosure. And I've talked about it before. I don't know how much people would be able to handle it. And sometimes, like I said, I think some people, it's like, let us have it, and they'll wig out a little bit and then come back down to earth. And there's some people that will totally like lose it, because to them that's always been something that's very, very, very far-fetched. Even though we've been getting it, from Hollywood for years now. I still think, I don't know. I still think that even if and when they do give an official disclosure, I think it's going to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very lacking in substance. In other words, this will have very little to do with the actual truth. In other words, it will be a little bit of truth, which probably people will realize, man, I've heard of that for years already. Mixed in with this and that. Like I said, even that movie that they show of that, that's coming out, people are seeing it now, and like even the mainstream news outlets are showing that little object or spaceship or whatever it is, object that's moving erratically in ways that nobody thinks, that we don't have anything that moves that way. I saw that years ago. Like you said, 3, 4, 5 years ago, when I went to a meeting that MUFON did a presentation. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, and when I saw it now, I was like, hey, but I saw that video a while back. And so I guess I don't really believe that if and when they disclose, they're really going to give anything significant that's going to fill in the blanks. For so many years of people witnessing UFOs, people that have had abduction scenarios, people that have both sightings and or abductions. Same thing, I'm sure you've heard of it, the dovetailing of UFO sightings and cryptid sightings. If you think that they're going to give us a double whammy of, and we think or we know or something that there's an extraterrestrial tie-in to Bigfoot and Dogman or whatever, it's like, yeah, right, sure. No, it's not going to happen. And contrary to what people think, that you say, well, you know what, maybe they're slowing it down because they don't want people to just totally wig out. I just think that they're hoping that the disclosure in and of itself will be like, huh? Because remember, for years and years and years, I'm going to go with the American government, because that's where we live, has basically denied that UFOs or extraterrestrials or anything like that was totally, it's great material for a movie or a sci-fi show or, stuff like that. But that's about the extent of it. But then you think it's let's say like an organization like MUFON, which has gone out and collected. This is besides all the other people that collect stories. In other words, have they've interviewed people that have had some type of experience or sighting. You're going to tell me that all these thousands and thousands and thousands of stories, of interviews, of retellings, everybody's going to be crazy and or lying? No. But at all this time, we have the people that make it quote unquote official, saying, no, it's this, it's that, it's, what was it originally? What was it? Weather balloons, gases, aircraft from military bases, jets, you name it, everything but something that originates not of this planet. And I think that right there, once I guess what I'm trying to say is that once we get beyond the fact that they actually do disclose, if they disclose something, once we get over that shock, like, man, they're actually saying or admitting that this exists, once everybody comes off that, then they'll look at or listen to what really said, and they'll realize, but they're not really saying anything more than just saying, there's something there, but there will not really be anything substantial to it. And I mean, when what he what he described as, and that I agree with, that's the real reason why this disclosure is being timed the way it is. Well, that's a whole different show. Yes, that's a whole different show. So again, guys, thank you so much for being part of my audience. I need to go out there and save my chickens before some big giant owl makes a meal out of their head. Let me tell you something, that's pretty awful. When I moved out here, that was a really bad thing. I lost a lot of my chickens that way. Again, you've been wonderful, and I have a lot of fantastic guests coming on. You can go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com. I have links there for the videos. I have links there for any of the either the podcast platforms, or if you want to actually download the MP3 file, I have links on MiamiGhostChronicles.com. I'm working on my books. You can go to MarlenePardo.com. You'll see I already have the cover up of my upcoming book, which is Hot Dame on a Cold Slab, Film Noir Murders #2, which is a series of true crime murder mysteries. Some of them solved, some of them unsolved. They're all true. Okay, that should be coming out hopefully before fall. That's what I'm aiming for. And again, if there's anybody out there, if you're an author, expert, or just anybody that's had an experience and you want to come on the show, please send me an email. Or if you want to send me a story, or if you want to be interviewed on the show, if you've written a book, or you've had experience, or you're a paranormal investigator, or whatever, if you've been looking for Bigfoot, UFOs, whatever, contact me, and I would love to have you on the show. And it'll be very easy, and I look forward to it. Believe me, there's something that I've always loved about talking to the people, the unknowns. In other words, not the people that you see all the time, maybe on shows or on all the paranormal shows, or now with all these different cryptid shows. Just believe me, there's a bunch of people out there that have had experiences or work in these types of areas that this is what they do, which, believe me, they're very knowledgeable. And again, reach out to me. Go to, like I said, MiamiGhostChronicles.com or MarlenePardo.com, or you can email me at Marlene@MiamiGhostChronicles.com and let me know, and we'll schedule something. So again, thank you for being part of my audience. You are all wonderful. Take care. See you next.